Okay.
We're recording now.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is David Martin. I've been at AccuWeather for actually 19 years. This is kind of a big direction change for AccuWeather, this type of product, Storyteller. There's really nothing about this system that's focused toward the weather. It's general use for the newsroom, for telling different kinds of stories. It's 65-inch touchscreen. You're going to have two of them in the different studios. What I'm going to do in this session is basically an overview of the different applications that we include on the system. These are applications that have been written by AccuWeather in-house. Some of them are very structured to do specific types of presentations. Some of them are very unstructured to let producers and graphics folks create the kind of display that you want to put on air. System is down here. The system allows, just so you're aware, the control room can send up to 4 live video inputs into the system simultaneously. So as we go through here, they only have one hooked up for me right now. But as you see in here, and we're manipulating elements and movies and stuff, up to 4 of those can be a live video source at the same time. Types of displays you might do with that might be, 4 live video sources up there, might be 4 reporters out in the field that I want to go talk to this person, I want to talk to this person. So keep those things in mind as you see me go through these different apps as far as what you can do. We can go ahead and start off with what we call the media app, and it's one of the probably most used apps, quickest to kind of get up and running with and using on air. This is an application that allows you to bring in elements that are either images, movies, or live video sources from the control room. When you go and load something, hit the button, it takes you to a user folder. What they'll probably do is set up different folders for different folks that are going to use the system that your content can go into. If I want to bring in, say, a picture right here of the beach, just select it, hit open. So then it adds it to my rundown down here. All these elements that are over on the right, I can pick them up, drag them, and scale them. So right here, this is a video, and you'll see the video controls down along the bottom. I can hit the play button, play a video on here. You can scale it and everything while it's playing. Up here, we have various controls, things that you can do to the video, different displays, methods of displaying this content. You can scale this up full screen, but you also have a mode where you can just tap on an element and go full screen, and we'll snap it to the entire full screen display. This is probably one of the easiest ways to use the system. Go full screen, and then at that point, all you're doing is sliding to go element to element that's in your rundown.
Playing the video on its own.
That's also an option. So you can choose whether you want videos to autoplay or not. So if you have sort of display where you want to talk about it before you start rolling it, you can always wait. The control bar can be toggled on and off. There are going to be times where you really want everybody just focused on what's going on here, but there's going to be times where you want to bring this up.
Can you touch in a specific place to get that? Or can you
Either
touch
corner.
anywhere?
So it's the 2 top corners. Bring it on and off. And then to take it out of full screen mode, you just tap that button again and come down to here. If you want to rearrange your elements, pick something up, just drop it, rearrange it. So when you're in full screen mode, you're going to start wherever you tap. So if I decide I really just want to look at these last couple things here, I can tap right there, go full screen, and then just look at that part of the show. As far as telestrating, if you bring up a graphic, doesn't matter if it's playing or not. Say there was some sort of accident here or something that you wanted to point out on the shoulder, you could go to the telestrator pin, rotate through different colors there. So I want to illustrate in red. Just draw right there. Don't have to stop the video or anything. You have different pin sizes you can choose from. Erase button. One of the number one things that you'll see, that additional mistakes that I see folks make is when you're in telestration mode and you're telestrating, when you erase it, you're still in telestration mode. So you do have to toggle that off. I invariably see somebody erase their telestration and immediately go to resize this, and then you do that. So erase. If you're really done and you're not going to telestrate again, turn that off. Then you're ready to scale this down. The elements have to be scaled below a certain threshold size before they'll pop themselves back into their location over here. So if I left this large and threw it over here, it's just going to stick to the side of the screen. So take it down to approximately the size that those are, throw it in, and it'll snap right to where it belongs. And as you can see, I left that video playing. So that video could be playing, you know, I can have multiple videos up here playing at the same time.
And they remember what order that you had them in previously when you drop them back
When you
in?
drop them back in, they go exactly to where they were before. So I can throw it down there, but it's going to snap into that exact spot. These controls can be set to be vertical or horizontal. So if you want to work from the left or right side, that's an option. The scrub bar can be used to jump to a specific part of the video. That typically gets used most by sports, you know, as far as going back in a play or something and looking at a specific location. But when a video is playing here also, you have a control to go to different slow motion speeds. So this toggles you between, you know, basically quarter, half, three-quarters, and full speed video. You also have a control there to put it into repeat loop mode. So if you want your video to just play over and over, depending on what type of content it is, you can also do that.
You should have up to 4 video inputs?
Up to 4 live video inputs that can come into the system. So I only have 1 right now, but the way you access those is through this little video camera up here. You'll see buttons down here. Right now I have 3 are grayed out, 1's red. That tells me that source is available to me. When I press it and toggle it on, it adds it down here. So right now, they're just running into me. It's something looping off of a video server somewhere, just playing over and over. So that is a live video source from the control room. And these live video sources, you know, you're free to go telestrate on top of them. You know, it might be a sky cam or something that's showing something outside that you want to highlight. Something else that you can do with either video or video movies or live video sources, there is a zoom feature. The zoom feature, tap it, and then draw a box starting at the top corner and dragging down. And then after you drag that box, you tap it, and now you're zoomed into that specific part of the video. So you could see something like that for these car videos that I had. If there was something that you wanted to highlight that was happening over here, you go into zoom mode, drag a box, and it zooms right into that part of the video. So you could be zoomed in, manipulating the video, telestrating on it while it's zoomed in. You can really do whatever you want with them. When you hit the zoom button again, it's going to snap it back to the full view of that image.
Can you save an image of the zoomed in image? Can you save that if you wanted to keep that?
It doesn't. No, it does not save like
Okay.
the zoom factor. The elements that you bring in here, I'll show that at the end. You can basically save a show and give it whatever name you want.
Yeah, and if you
when
snap
load
it back to the
again.
left there, it's going to revert to its original size.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So that kind of covers these initial buttons here. The green arrow is if somebody wants to work from the system from the opposite side of the screen, they can just hit that and everything will switch
Oh, nice.
to the right. If you had your video controls set to be along the side, when you flip the screen, the video controls will actually switch to the other side of the video. So you could imagine a situation where if you wanted to have two people at the screen working together, that somebody over here talks about a graphic, throws it back there, and then taps this and sends it over to the other person. And you can kind of keep going back and forth talking about different elements. So it's a way to get two people on the screen at the same time. This is a video that was recorded off of a phone. As we know, usually when viewers send you content, they tend to not take it the way that you want to present it. So you do have the option here to basically unlock rotation on a specific element. So you need to take a graphic, rotate it, go ahead and play it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Somebody a local high school game. When you do size these down and throw them back in the original spot, it does flip and revert back to how it was. If you want to take an element out of your show, just tap it, hit the red X, it'll pop it out of the show.
Is there an
That
undo?
out. So if I've taken those both out, the button right next to it will undo them in the order that you eliminated them from the show. So hit that, brings back the Halloween graphic there, and do it again, and it brings back that image. Now when it brings them back in, it does stack them back at the end of the show, not where they originally were. But then you can just drag them up and reorder your elements. If I were to add more, it'll just create additional rows in here. So if I went to, okay, I want to bring these three images. You know, you can group select, or bring them all in at once.
Is there a preferable resolution or a maximum size? We don't want to go above 2 megabits or megabytes.
Not really. This screen is always running at 1080, so it's 1920 by 1080. But the graphics that you bring in here, there's no real limit to what you can pop into it.
Okay.
I know sometimes viewers can go crazy with the resolution of their images that they might send you, 5,000 by 3,000. But
Right.
this ultimately will bring it in here, scaled down, and that just means it's something that you could do
Sharper.
a zoom in it and not start to lose any resolution on it. So you'll have that option. I did skip over one button. This button is for what we call comparison mode, and this was actually completely, the development of it was driven by user feedback, interaction, things that a client wanted to do, and we added this functionality. It's basically a way to put a subset of the content that you have here into a grid. So if I hit that button and I decide, okay, I just want to be working with these 5 graphics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all highlighted. I hit this button again. It automatically grids them. So I could have anywhere from 2 to 9 elements when I go into this mode. This is one that would be very useful if you did have like 4 live video sources and you had your 4 reporters in the field.
Like traffic.
Or traffic.
Yes.
So if you had your, well, you can only have 4 live video sources at a time
Right.
coming in.
Okay.
But if the control room's able to switch one for you, or if you have access to controlling what one of those sources 1 through 4 is, then you could swap them up.
So we could have as many as, like, how many pictures up there, but only 4 of them would be moving if it's the traffic cars? The cars that are...
Well, if they're videos,
They can all be moving.
they can all be moving. I think these are all images that I brought up.
But your middle one
But
should be
for
your
like
on
camera.
traffic limit.
That's true.
So let me go choose a different set of them. So your live, a couple things that are videos. Put the other one in here. So there's my grid of 4 things. This is a live camera from the control room. This is an actual video file that you have. You could start these all up. Set that to loop.
So viewers can see all of that that's happening.
They can see all that's happening,
And you
and then
can
when
do-
you want to focus on just one thing and say, okay, I want that control bar gone,
Mhm.
so I've got my top corner place to hide it, and then I'm going to double tap this
Right?
and bring it up full screen. So
No,
if these are your different reporters, like, okay, I'm talking to my reporter that's, at such and such polling booth, whatever,
Right.
downtown. Now, I
What
want
if
to go
there
here.
were like 9 different we have multiple traffic cameras and you want to put like 10, 11 up there just so people see all the different areas of town and what they look like?
They will be able to make it out.
You'll only be able to have 4 live things.
That's
Right,
it.
but even if they're not moving, like will it show just kind of like a standstill picture? Like sometimes, for example, the 10-1604 commute always gridlocked around a certain time frame and even a still picture just kind of
Well,
standing
I guess
out.
that would
We could do a screenshot.
That would depend on some internal sources as far as, do you have something that can grab screenshots from it
Okay.
periodically and just drop it into a folder on the system?
And so
Because
we'd
then
be
you could
able to see-
then you could put those up at the beginning of the show if they always overwrite each other,
Okay.
and then have a show that's in.
Well, like a few minutes ago, you showed
Comparison.
5 different little boxes up at the same time. They weren't all moving. You had 5 just a
Only four
second
would
ago.
be able to move.
Right, but I'm just talking about like just as still pictures. How many still pictures can you have?
Up to 9.
Up to 9,
in
okay.
here. Yep. So. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's my maximum grid
Gotcha.
that I can create. But if you have 7, it kind of figures out the spacing automatically for you.
And nobody in
So-
the control room can override this or control it from the control room, right? I mean, you're.
Well, they control those 4 video sources, but
I'm saying in terms of making it full screen or swiping it out of the way.
Yeah.
correct.
It's strictly on the.
It's driven by here. I mean, they could remote in with remote desktop software, but I don't think you're not going to really do
Yeah.
that on air or anything.
Aren't your traffic
there-
cameras all coming in from one source, though? You don't have-
Transmit.
So it's basically one picture. That's it. He's got to switch you to different cameras. You don't have each transmit
can't
camera is
switch
a
them to
separate
4
source.
different.
It's one source. So you
Right,
can't
but we
do.
split it, we split
We
it,
split
we're
it.
able to get like 12 different, no, we have about 18 different cameras off that one source.
Oh,
So we,
okay.
I don't know how it works, but we.
I'm wondering if we
sort
can
of
do that with
split it.
weather cams, because we have 4, but they come into one pipe. Are we going to be able to split them up? Okay.
And this can be a great way to bring through your weather systems. If you have, a radar, the main weather system, different
We do.
components that have different unique video sources, then those can each be in here
Like
at the
with the
same
election,
time.
for
And
example, you could have had 9 different races up there, and you said, I want to do the governor's race and hit the governor. Is that, correct? I mean, you could have done
Like a
that.
full screen of
A
each.
CG, a live
Yeah,
Right.
visual,
something like that.
still image, a map.
Yeah.
right. I will tell you, we did a kind of an ambitious, quick project with WJLA, that's a Sinclair station in DC, and they used the Storyteller. They only got installed like 2 weeks ago. Their number one thing was, we have an election app on here, which I'm not going to spend much time on since it just passed. But they were doing, for about a 3-hour period, they were doing break-ins every 2 minutes with different affiliates. And I'm told this station here used them a couple times
Yeah.
last night. So they were just
We did.
going nonstop Senate races around the country. And
I saw him using it, so I didn't realize it was.
yeah, they were up on a rooftop. It was actually fairly cold, I was told. They had some plastic covering
Yeah.
everything, and they had the Capitol building in the background of the
Yeah, it looked really sharp.
shot. So it was, very nice. So that is the basic functionality. This app does also have the ability to bring in a web page directly in here. I'll also show you there's other ways to do the web page. I mean, it's just a regular computer, so you can just launch Internet Explorer, full screen from the desktop. But this is something that'll let you put it in here and kind of, if you had graphics side by side with it, you could be looking at a web page. And
So you set up a specific URL on
Correct.
that link so that when you open it, it's where you want it to be.
So, so to get into where you can kind of edit a lot of the basic ways that things are laid out, is done by a right click anywhere on this control bar. On a touch screen, a right click is generally a hold down until you see the little circle around and then release. So that simulates a right click on a touch screen. Lots of controls in here. We talked about like when you're in full screen mode, autoplay. Do I want my videos to autoplay, yes or no? This can be saved per scene that you save out. So you have your content in here. You want to save a show that's just for weather. Save. This is going to be my Weather 1 show. If you prefer in live, when you're in the full screen mode, if you prefer instead of it doing push transitions, you want it to do a fade, change that to a fade. Save that. So it's saving these settings as well as what content you currently have loaded in the show. So now when I go full screen, select an element, go full screen. Now my swipe is going to just be a fade from graphic to graphic. But some stations where they kind of stacked graphics that kind of revealed more and more information, so the push was not very effective for them. So
Sure.
we went ahead and added the fade option in there. So yeah, there's a number of different controls, and this is my day tomorrow is 2 4-hour sessions with a group of 4 folks that are going to get the in-depth, every aspect of the system sort of training, and they're going to. The goal is for them to be the go-to people for any assistance in setting this up and kind of doing initial design work of your own background here instead of the storyteller background and things like that that will go into the system. Like this background image, I could change that right here and say, okay, I want to put my Action 8 image as the background of the overall app. So graphics will do that. If there's a certain color scheme of the borders that go around graphics to show that they're selected or not, that can all be adjusted in here. The browser URL that it brings up by default, that can be changed here per show. So a lot of different settings in here. If you want to auto hide the toolbar when you go into different modes, you can set that up. So right when you go into comparison mode, I don't want that toolbar there initially. You can always hit the right or left top of the screen to bring it in. There is a double tap mode for going full screen with an individual graphic. I tend to initially leave that turned off just because I sometimes see it throw people. But what that will do is allow you to take a graphic and you can double tap it and just work with that graphic in a full screen mode one at a time and double tap and bring it down, bring the next one. The reason I disable it is I see a lot of people that are first time users on this system. If you go to do this and you don't really get your fingers down at the same time, you wind up getting interpreted as a double tap and then your graphics going out like that on you unexpectedly. So it is an option per scene. You control the behavior the way you want. So, anybody want to come up and try this who might be an on-air presentation person?
You're gonna be doing traffic or whatever.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
I didn't wear my red dress today.
Yeah.
May I use my? Oh no.
Oh.
Sorry,
Wrapping the new suit.
Okay. This is highly unprofessional, but I'm a little cold. Is that okay?
Your sleeves are probably going to be a problem, but
Watch
we'll
this.
see how it goes.
Watch this.
And these are some of the things is when you're first using the system, the way this touchscreen works is there are cameras in the bezel there that are looking right over the glass. So it's actually your finger breaking a beam on the glass. So a sleeve getting in there will get registered as a touch. So initially working this, I'd be very careful to almost over exaggerate that you're pointing at the screen for your touches. As you get more comfortable with it, you'll get used to doing things back in like that and expanding graphics. But the sleeves can get you. So go ahead and pick a.
Okay.
Because now you got to do it while you're talking.
Right. Okay. So I'm loading right now. So
You're
we're not
loading
actually
something
on
new.
the air. I like the desert, right? Okay. So we're gonna. Oh, you know what? The penguins sound pretty cool too. I'm gonna load again, go get some penguins. We didn't get to do our penguin story this morning. You know what? In fact, I want to do a few more stories. I really like koalas. Okay, there we go. We're getting all animal-fied.
Rat, rat.
But you're not touching the middle of it.
The koala.
The
has
koala's
Hit the
not
koalas.
highlighted.
Koalas.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
make sure you touch it correctly. All right. Let's see here. Then we want to bring this over.
2 fingers to.
Gonna bring it out.
Yep.
This is a beautiful picture. All right, this is downtown San Antonio, and we miraculously got an ocean.
Can you zoom in? Could you zoom out?
Yay! Oh, you want me to
Keep
zoom
it-
in on the area?
zoom in on a
Okay, we're gonna
specific
zoom in
part
on
of
an
it.
area.
Yeah, the Riverwalk
Zoom.
is
You're always starting from the top
I like
corner and
the
dragging the box.
ocean. I like to do it. Oh,
This is strictly one finger,
Okay.
so you're going to kind of start above where you want to zoom into and drag the box down.
okay.
And then when you release, the next tap takes you into that
Perfect.
location. So
If you mess up on the, like that right there, if she brought it, started too far down, you have to hit it, you have to get out of it. Yeah, like, oh, I didn't want that one.
you can start over.
Without
So
having to
right
retouch
there,
it, okay.
right. So I could start. Well, yeah. I mean, your best
Just to just get
guess
out.
if you miss it is
Whatever's in purple is gonna be
is to
zoomed
jump
in.
out of the mode and
Right,
go right back
right,
in.
right.
And then try again.
See.
Very
Yeah,
good.
it always requires that tap at the end of it to actually do the zoom mode.
But this is actually where you do the. It won't ever confuse it with bringing this back up, right? Let's see, you have to touch it right now. Okay, there we go. Cool.
Right, graphics will override those touch points in the top corner. So if there's something over
Cool.
top of that, you're working with the graphic, you'd have to move it out of your way before you could
Got it.
toggle the control
To get rid of it.
bar on and off.
Well, to get rid of it, I just have to shrink it again and bring it over here.
Yep, make it hit that side of the screen and it'll pop
And
into
it'll pop in.
location.
Okay, if I want to show several in a row, or want several, like ready to go, kind of how
Mhm.
you were just sliding them, then I just, oh, that's right,
You tap,
tap.
and then
we can
hit
do
this
it
button
with a
again.
knife.
Once you're done, basically you're telling it, I've selected all the ones that I've.
Okay, cool. And then we can pull one of these up, and then that's how I can do,
Now in this
Slide
mode,
over
you're just
now.
bringing one up at a time.
okay,
So you're not in a slideshow
okay.
mode.
So no sliding allowed here. What is that? That actually went back to the small
Well, this is
shot
still in the
too.
zoom.
Got it.
So things will remember, each individual graphic will remember, was it in zoom mode? Did I have the telestrator turned on this graphic? You can go to another graphic that doesn't have the telestrator on, but if you left it on with the previous graphic, when
But
you go
the
back to
movies
it,
don't,
you're ready to
or-
go. No, it's the same with.
You have to light it
with all of
first.
them.
Did you notice how when I tried to unzoom and I mispressed one thing, it got rid of my entire show? So it had all 9 of those right there. And then
Did
I
you hit-
mispressed something on the zoom part, and then I hit this, and it went back all to there.
Well,
So
this,
what made the whole thing disappear? I can't just get it back,
this,
right?
right.
It'll just put them all right back.
Shuts
So
it
you
off.
have to be very careful with the system not to press.
So when you're in this
Thing.
mode right here, hitting this button again takes you out of this mode.
Okay.
But
But it-
I
it
will
won't
tell you,
just
I
come
will tell
back.
you, in edit mode,
Mm-hmm.
so if there's concern about the way the bars are, when you're in edit mode, you can actually right-click one of these and then drag it to a different position. So if there's certain buttons that you find that them being close together is causing an issue, you can make the comparison mode be way over at the end of this bar.
Oh, it wasn't so much that. It was that simply by accident, if you're talking, you're on air, and obviously we all wouldn't be perfect, you hit the wrong button, it got
Right.
rid of all of them. So there's no way to
Correct.
recall that actual lineup, correct?
Unless-
It's gone.
Unless you create a show.
You just have to recreate it. Okay. Okay, how would I, then, okay,
So
sorry.
only the ones with the yellow bar around them.
Right, and then I press load again.
Border, yep.
How do I get back to the sliding one?
Okay, so the sliding one is actually just click on one that you want it to start with.
Okay.
Oh, see, I've got the double tap in there.
Mhm.
So you just need to have it highlighted, and then hit this is the full screen right
It's
there.
not highlighted.
Well, it's subtle.
Oh, it's the
Yeah,
blue.
It's blue on blue, I changed the background, so it's kind of hard to see.
But the other highlights were yellow.
For comparison mode, they were yellow.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the
it just
highlights
tells you-
change?
And that's all,
Okay.
that's all editable, like in this
Okay.
edit window, it's colors here, and we've got a bit of transparency on them, so those can be more deliberate borders, different colors, that's all under your control. But yeah, the full screen is just this button right here.
Or you just double tap.
Or you can double tap an individual one. But
automatically-
that's the one that's going to put you into mode where you're swiping.
That gives me the ability to swipe.
And we
And
changed it
it's
to the
fading
fade
because
right
you,
now.
okay. So, I don't necessarily have to go like that, or do you have to sweep it just like I am every
Yep,
time?
that's the-
Even when it's fading? Okay.
Yep. It's just,
Kind of
I mean,
show.
you're at the end of it, but you know, it can be very, very subtle. It's,
Okay.
you know, a certain number of pixels it needs to see your finger moving.
Now, what if you're on air and you're like literally having to, I mean, there might be some, I mean, I guess you just step in front of it. There's no like control for it. This is all screen tap. If
It's
you
all
don't
screen tap.
want to have to reach across,
Then you move it over to the
But
other
you
side.
can design this bar can be over in this corner, it could be along the side.
okay.
So that's all
they can move this
configurable.
over here. Okay.
And you know, that's, again, I'll go over with the producers, but you know, when you're in, let's come out of full
What
screen
is-
mode. When you're in edit mode, I could design this bar to be over here.
Mhm.
You can scale it down. I find when you actually are setting this up the first time, the mouse is kind of better. If you only want to work with 4 or 5 buttons, your show could be designed in such a way that you're only exposing the specific buttons that you really want to use. If,
Oh, that's
if you're like, I'm never really going to telestrate on here, you know. you
Because
could
the
do
viewers
that sort
can
of
see
thing.
those buttons.
They can see these buttons,
Okay.
and then you have the ability to kind of control how much.
I was thinking
Visual
from
real
like a
estate
talent
they take up.
perspective, I mean, wouldn't most of you as a meteorologist want it more like over in the corner? Because you're not going to want to have to go to the center of your screen to have to be tapping stuff.
But it can go vertical and be right next to me.
Right, which would be really much more accessible.
But yeah. No matter.
Do you still have a clicker?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So no
That might
clicker
be.
with this,
This is
correct?
not a clicker.
Yeah. Just no clicker with
system.
this.
It is all touch driven.
So is this the
Yeah.
only system y'all be using for weather?
I don't know.
Do you know, Mandy? If this is the only system we're using for weather and traffic, or no, it's not.
No, you mean this, no, we have the green screen.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
there's some other
This
stuff.
will replace what is the weather center now, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
But a lot of what stations do is, you know, if you just want to bring your weather system in here, you just bring it in as a full video source. You still have your clicker that's controlling your weather system and sequencing it, and you're just bringing it as a live source on
It's
here.
just a source.
So it's,
It doesn't advance
You
my,
got to advance
my
with
weather
your clicker.
graphics system.
if you have your clicker for your
Yeah.
weather system,
If
you'd
you bring
have
a
to have
source
that
in there, then you
separate.
can use your clicker.
Right, this is not talking back to the weather system.
But it
There are future
theoretically-
things where
I was
we're
gonna
wanting
say
to
it
do things
theoretically
like that.
could.
Right, we're investigating things like sending certain control keystrokes if the other system will accept that. I mean, some of this gets into
I
the
know
other
you're
companies
accurate,
want
they're,
us
they're WSI.
to be able to
Yeah,
control them.
I got it.
But you know, if you say, hey, we'd like to be able to send a keystroke across the network and have that system interpret it, then that would give us the ability to assign certain buttons to be like, okay, I'm going to do that function on
That'd be cool.
the remote system.
Are there any really significant things I could not do with this that
No,
we need to be
that,
using?
that covered
Cool.
everything's pretty good. I just always like to get somebody on there, you know,
That's helpful.
get the feel of the
Doing it.
experience, and you know, the key early on is to be very deliberate, and then get used to what you can do that's a little bit quicker working with the system, and just know, you kind of practice with it and see where you're going to make certain mistakes, and the early ones tend to be an elbow hitting. I'm going to do this, and my elbow hits, and all of a sudden its size is different than what I expected because it's interpreting this as one of your touches, or the sleeve. The sleeve really gets it. There's always a concern about lighting in the exact wrong location. Coming in at an angle can start to blind some of the sensors along the side of the screen.
Sure.
So if you're finding like a certain area of the screen seems like a dead spot, you might call folks and did they change the lighting or something recently, and that can. It's not necessarily you making a mistake, but it could be that the lighting is causing the screen to be less reactive to your touch.
So will we be using this on a regular basis? Is it? Will we be using this on a regular basis?
Yeah, because we're getting, there are two, right?
There's two.
Yeah, so there's
Some
one
tool
for
ones
both
for-
studios.
Oh.
I'll be integrating.
And this will eventually be on a stand with wheels, and be rolled around, but I'm told it's going to primarily be in this location.
Do you know if it's
So-
gonna be primarily, like if there's one for each studio, if it's primarily like an asset for the traffic studio? Because I know it's separate from these two studios, and if there's only two, then it puts it out of. We're like, Mandy,
So-
give us all the answers.
If Mark walks back through, he might be able to tell us.
So that's just one of the apps, but that is kind of one of the more generic apps that really, you can kind of get up and running and you don't need a producer, you just need the video content or the live sources that you're going to
You
use
know,
from the
if you're
control
using
room.
the web page and you're playing a video off the web page, will the audio source go out over the airwaves?
It's a regular PC, so they can take the audio out from the PC to the control room and do what they want with it if you're just playing directly off a web page. You know, again, outside of our apps, you can always go to the web page and go to your website. You know, you can go to weather. You know, you can play something on here. Depending on how the website, every website's different, but some of them will be kind of responsive to scaling up and down.
Oh, that's nice.
It's all a matter of what the web page does. So this is just direct on the system. No. I don't know if this one has a stop button for me, but one of the other tools that we provide on here is a general telestrator. So the telestrator can be brought up at any time and let you draw on top of whatever you happen to be doing on the computer. So, you know, if you were on a certain web page and you're talking about a certain story, hey, I want a nice smooth line, going to be telestrating in green, we could come in here and draw over top of the browser,
little
whatever
drop
you have
shadow
up
too.
there. With a little drop shadow automatically, you can, you know, if you had a circle, you could tap, drag out, release, and
Nice.
highlight things with the circle. Has an arrow tool, so you can draw little arrows. And again, this could be over top of a live video source. So this, you know, if this is your weather system in here, you could do a few additional things on top of that graphic.
With
Yeah.
control, color, all of that.
You've got
It's-
different colors in here that you can toggle through, size of the pen. So I'm illustrating right now. Tossing here off, so. You can populate a folder with icons that you want to use in here. So you know, you could tap down fire icon. And again, this is just a telestrator layer. It's a layer of glass on top of the screen. I will tell you right now, these images are just static, but we're going to be coming out very shortly with the ability to put animated icons.
And a lot more, like sometimes when there's car
Well,
crashes and that sort of
So
stuff.
there's a long list in here,
Okay.
and really this content is all just PNG files in a folder. So you
That
could
would
replace
be
that folder with whatever you want in there
Okay.
to use. You know, we thrown some weather things in there, but you know, if you had a map or something, and I'll go into the Bing surface map that they have on here in a second. Then you know you could put a police car down on a map of the city or something like that using this Illustrator tool. We're also adding a spotlight feature to this shortly, where you'll be able to have like a spotlight and just highlight a specific thing on the screen and move that around. That's probably about a couple weeks away from being released. So we're always enhancing these applications based on user feedback. So that's the Illustrator tool. So the media app. There's a little play button down here. Next to it is a social media app, and that's one of our premium apps that your station did purchase. And it gives you a very quick way to get on the air with different Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Google Plus content. So when you first launch the app, it comes up in an edit mode. This is just kind of design stuff of the look when you're on air. Different bar colors and things like that. You can specify your own background image. But on a day-to-day basis, you just come in here to Facebook. I have, it'll remember previous searches that you did, so I have Fox San Antonio in there. And then I can say, okay, I want to look at the last 10 Facebook posts, and I want up to 20 comments per Facebook post, and I want to go ahead and retrieve that. When I hit that button, it's going to go out to Facebook right now and get the most recent content from your station's Facebook page. So here we are. This is as of this morning. You can look at this and kind of read this. Okay, time is running out to help these local cheerleaders earn a chance to share. Okay, I want to put that on. Let me click in there and check it on. Here's one down here that's got, you can look and see, okay, there's 29 comments on this particular post. So let me go ahead and turn that on, and then I'll see all the comments that were made based upon that post.
And you can choose the comments.
I can choose them. I can go in there and go, hands down, da-da-da.
That's good.
This
I've never
is,
seen a cuss word on our page.
yeah, I see a lot of stuff on here, but Little Red Barn. Now, I can turn these comments on, and if somebody had a good comment, but they unfortunately have an unacceptable profile picture, you can actually go and turn their individual profile picture off, and it'll put a generic one in there. You can click in here and edit. Obviously, can't change the meaning of anybody's post, but if they put a profanity in there and you want to put, asterisk, 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 that is available to you through the interface. So I'll go ahead and turn a few more of these on. Flash flood warning. Now some of these have pictures associated with them. You can kind of preview what the picture looks like. It's linked on that post. And once you've turned on what you want to, if you were 5 seconds away from going on air, after you've selected what you want, you just hit the on air button, and boom, you're ready to step back and look at the different posts that you turned on.
That's slick.
So now I want to dig into this. If I want to go into this one, you just double tap it, comes out full. There's an image associated with it. There will be a camera.
Wow.
This will stay centered,
That's very
so
cool.
you can zoom in, zoom out on this. I've seen some stations where, depending on what gets posted by the weather department, there's a lot of content that you can get to really quick.
Oh yeah, we get a
right
lot of
there.
good pictures. It's gonna be so cool. 'Cause right now, getting them on the air is a pain.
Okay.
We ask for
Close-
other pictures and we get a ton of them, but getting them on our system
From viewers, right. So yeah, if you've got a Twitter hashtag or something that you've
I do.
got your viewers, we can go look at that right now, actually. But so for this post, when you look here, you see how many comments there were for different posts. Any of the posts that I selected some comments to be on can be highlighted in a separate color. So this is orange, telling me, it's kind of a heads up to me when I go into this. Hey, I turned on some comments related to this post. You just swipe to get into the comments of the post. So here's the first one, and then here's the second one where I decided to get rid of the profile picture in case it was not appropriate.
That's nice. So you don't run the risk of, whoa, wait a minute.
Right.
You
get a chance to preview
pre-select,
everything.
Clean it up.
If you put something on that's
Yeah,
inappropriate,
you put dirty stuff up
that's
there, we're
'cause
gonna
you
know
didn't-
what kind of integrity everybody has.
So if you have a show like that, and you've selected specific things that you want to show here, but somebody else is going to use the system before you're ready to go on there, you can go to File, Save, oops, File,
Save as.
I think I got below it. Save As, so this could be KABB 2, call it. So what it does is it pulls down any content that needed related to those posts, next time you come into the app, launch it, file, open. I want to go to my KVP2 setup I had. I want to go on there.
Wow.
So I'm ready to go.
Let's use that every single day.
Next person comes in, wants to use the system. Launch it. In this case, let's go to Twitter. Twitter, I can either do, the @ somebody's account or a hashtag. So, do you have one there? We
What's
can
your
look at.
account?
Huh?
What's your account?
I think it's WAI weather. It's
It's an
set
actual
up so I don't ever go type it in.
Let's see what we get.
That might be it with that. No guarantees.
Well, usually if it gets that far, it's an actual account.
Yes.
There you go. So, since we know all of them are going to be great, we just say select all.
Yeah.
You go on there. So, there you are. You got your photos.
So if you wanted
Ready
to
to
tag
go?
out your weathercast and say, make sure you follow me on Twitter, you could use that as a.
Yeah.
that.
It's my little 3D print.
This is one of our most used, most purchased premium apps. I mean, it really, it's one of those that, once the design is set up of the background and stuff, you don't have to rely on a producer or anything for anything. So you can just, come up to the system and get the content that you want on there very quickly.
I have a question.
Yes.
Javier is a director. Let's say we take this and I'll be standing next to it. Are we able to take this full to screen?
That is something that is an option on the system that they did not purchase, but I believe questions are being asked as of yesterday about,
Let me see. Actually, I just got the phone with them.
because a lot of your other stations got
They
it,
did
so.
not buy, for some reason, they did buy the upfront card of this. We can't, but it's an expensive pretty please. I know he's not a sales guy from AccuWeather, but it's about a $6,000 difference. But we're working on something else. Maybe like a scan converter. So you have one scan converter now, but if this is the upload that goes to a scan converter, you got.
Right, because ultimately that internal card is just a very nicely integrated
Right,
scan
but-
converter, so to speak.
We're
but-
talking about maybe doing another scan converter, which would allow us. To me, I agree 100%.
But for the viewer,
Right,
you know.
because right now, it's just what.
Right, 'cause you have to be-
It's out in front of
Yeah,
you.
the only way this is getting on air is the camera
is a
shooting it
camera
right now.
Yeah.
If you have the full output, then you know that at any moment, the control room has this screen available to just pop
So
up on
one right
there
here on
if they
this
do the full
wall,
output.
And then
So.
one in this so-called studio, social media room space in there. So just right across from each other.
There won't be one, but if we
No,
wanted to
not
have
one
it-
in the
but we could
cave
pre-produce
studio or
something.
whatever.
We could have the anchors pre-produce something if we wanted to have them do something like that.
There are a couple other limitations that we're running into too with these, actually within the Fox speeds.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it's an Instagram, Google Plus.
On this?
This is an app that's always being enhanced. We're starting to do some things with being able to search based upon a location. The difficulty with that is a lot of people that send tweets or Facebook aren't always providing their location. They find out currently that only about a tenth of the different tweets and things actually have geolocation information with them. But that is the direction that we're moving in to be able to do those sorts of things. You have a big sporting event, give me all the tweets that occurred, within a 5-mile radius of this location. So that is the direction we're headed. So I'll go ahead and get into this. I talked about telestrating on top of a map. The system, this is not one of our apps. The system comes with Surface Globe, which is Microsoft's version of Google Earth. Typically, you'll use this in conjunction with the Telestrator. Typically, you want to launch the Telestrator first, and then launch Google Earth, so it's up there available to you, or Bing Maps. I'm sorry. again, this is what it is. It's pulling tiles. We don't really have any control over what, how often they update it, things like that. But you can go in here, go into San Antonio, you type an address in there, it'll take you right to the address. You can go into a tilted view using this button right there. And get right into the streets. And, if something did happen downtown that you wanted to talk about, you could use your telestrator and get an arrow in here. There was a police chase or something that went down this road.
May I have one for Christmas?
Or maybe there's construction right there, and you want to alert everybody to go a different route. So, if you want to avoid, change color, if you want to avoid that accident or construction going on there, we recommend you go down this street, cut up here, and go that way.
That is too cool.
So that's, again, not our app, but we give you the tools to kind of do things on top of this app. There's no like saving of a specific view in here. But what you can do is place pins. So in between stories, if somebody wanted to place a pin and say, okay, when I launch this app next time, I'm going to talk about something that occurred here. Maybe it was a robbery. Pins, those are the only type of things that will persist between closing the app and launching it again. So if I close it, launch it, you can at least see that pin's there. Zoom in on that pin. So with a little bit of lead time, and this will just tapping this will take you from a top down to a angled view. If you want to go beyond that, you can hold finger there and get more of an angle if you want to. If you're ever like oriented and kind of get lost, you can hit that button, get oriented north to south again. But you can have these pins down there for an upcoming story to at least act as kind of guideposts.
Sure.
Before events occurred somewhere, somebody could go in there and set those pins. When you're done with the story that day, just hit the X and delete those pins out and close the app.
Can you change the map view from like the street view to like the other, what do you call it?
Just the top down. I mean, these are
You're always going to see the
tiles being fed on the fly across the internet to the system. So
It is.
there's
it
no
is.
design control over what it looks
Satellite
like.
versus just the map.
Right. It's
Right.
Is there a way to do kind of sequential information in here other than the pins? Like if we were,
You can do that map view versus satellite view.
it does. I'm pretty sure it says it.
Oh,
Oh, you know
take
what?
where you take the terrain out and
Right.
there it is.
Actually, yes.
How did you do that?
This little control here will give me like satellite view. And
Yeah, just like on Google Earth, you choose to turn on.
Right.
so yeah, it is in there. Sorry, most stations don't. But I'm changing that. But a lot of, one of the things that I remember being at a training shortly after the Boston Marathon bombing, and they realized this was a tool that they could have gone in here and gone right to Boston. If you knew where things had occurred, you could have immediately highlighted and talked about if you had an explosion icon or something. You could, first explosion was here, the second one was right there. Would have been a way to jump in on a national story really quick and show that you're following it, that you guys know what's going on with that high-profile national story. So.
is there a way though to do it in like sequential information, or to be able to keep it in a sequential way, and keep it in sequences, or be able to save it other than just your pins? You said every time it closes, for example. If I
That
want to go
is-
to a Transcat shot and then come back to the
Yeah,
app, there's no way
it's-
to keep it. Okay.
And you'll still have your, you're gonna have traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not his software,
Right.
that's Microsoft's.
Okay.
Real quick, I'll show an app that was a client's. This was another one that's it's a very simple app, but it was a client suggestion. When they would do a sequence or a presentation on the screen, when they were done and had to walk away, well, the screen would end up being in the backdrop of other shots and things, and the control room basically wanted to be able to feed it whatever they wanted to feed it. So they were having to, after they were complete, launch the media app, bring in a live video source, put it full screen. I took the double tap away. Put it full screen and then walk away. So we're like, can you give us, some way that we don't have to do those steps? I'm done with my show. I want to just walk away and be finished with it.
Sounds like a little person.
So what we did was we made the One Touch app. So you've done your presentation. I just want to get out of the studio, hit that button, walk away, and now full screen is live video source coming into the control room.
Whatever the default has been made to be.
Whatever the default is. And there's a config file that's very simple. It just says video source 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's whatever number is in there is what's going to come up. So
That's
it was a minor thing, but once we wrote this for them, they were kind of like, thank you. That's
a
saves
screensaver,
tedious
kind of.
screensaver coming from the control room. So just a quick way to be done. And where the screen is, I could imagine certain shots coming over where even though nobody's presenting here, this is maybe some
Could we theoretically have a station logo animation as a file in the box so that it doesn't have to go out to the control room? It just pulls that AVI file and plays it as a background. You know what I'm saying?
We could potentially do that. That does
You know
not
what
do
I
it right
mean?
now, but
So it doesn't have to tie up the control room. You
so
don't
One
have to
Touch
go,
is a
"Oh,
video
that's-"
source or a movie, just
Or a movie
one movie
file.
that's linked to.
That way you guys don't have to worry about what you have to source in. It's just pulling the file from the box straight
Yeah,
up
that'd be a lot.
and looping that. So you don't have to worry about, we just messed that up because we're doing something over here.
Right.
It'll just locally grab a file and play it. An OAI animated file, a KBB animated file.
Yeah.
Okay, that way you don't have to worry about what the
Okay.
it's doing.
The next app is what we call the List app. The List app is designed, and also let you know that one of the things that AccuWeather does is we will, when there's a story that has broad national appeal, we will send down a link to basically pre-made scenes. And this is one of those examples where we sent something that was pre-made. The basic structure of the List app allows you to create a set of lines of text and associate with each line of text an animation size that the text changes to when you tap it, as well as linking to a graphic or video. So when you select that, and bring out the next video. So we will typically, before I leave, I'll have an email list of the different producers that they want to get these alerts from AccuWeather, and then whenever one of these is done, they'll be provided directly. But this is also something that in the in-depth training I do tomorrow, they'll be able to set up basically different templates for you. I'll give a quick, I'll show you quickly how you can get into the back-end editor and change, you just type in different text for what the text lines are, and if you wanted to associate different graphics. There was, actually is a Sinclair station in Cincinnati. They actually got our premium traffic app. But while I was there on site, they wanted to get the weather department a little bit more involved in using the system. So one of the first things they did was kind of use this as here's my weather headlines, and had their weather system exporting certain graphics or videos
Nice.
directly onto one of the folders on our system. So it was a way to kind of get them involved with the screen. So go through all these different elements. as I go into a lot of these other apps, they're going to mostly have the concept of a wheel. So you can set up a wheel that is all the different scenes that when you launch that app, you'll be able to advance to. So here I have the arrows that I can go to the next scene in here. Christmas travel. Here's one where we didn't associate any graphics or anything with the different text lines. It's just strictly, I want to tap that. I want to highlight this. It can be a top 10 list. It can be whatever. Again, you're on the back end editor controlling the font size and color that it starts at and that it ends at after it's touched. As well as if you want to specify an image, it's brought up for each individual line that you touch. This was something we sent out that was like a helper graphic to talk about the season change, equinox. And the things that we send out, a lot of stations will take them for ideas, like, oh, this is, a different type of layout than we had thought about using. Any of these you take are completely open to you to modify and change to your desire. So it's not like what we deliver to you is locked in or.
Now, what's going to be the easiest way to import a video clip into that system? Is it going to be on a router,
That would be some of
flash drive?
the discussions tomorrow with the.
Okay. 'Cause
So I
for
have a group of
example-
just 4 people, so I've seen some stations that, with the media app, some stations had a network drive that we actually played the media across the network. We don't officially endorse that because it's dependent on how fast your network is, but I've seen it at certain stations that had a gigabit network. We've been able to stream 2 or 3 HD movies on the fly. So they were like going to this T drive that had, national network content going in there and run those directly across the network into our
Here's an example.
system.
I get stuff from NASA, and they have some really spectacular looking video clips
Mhm.
that I could put a flash drive on, save it onto my PC, bring it on a flash drive, and then put it into the system so that it plays out of the system. My concern, I think, for everybody is then who's importing things into the system. There's got to be some limitation. Otherwise, you've got
Right.
people just dumping stuff on your box that you don't want.
Right.
So it's accessibility
So, I mean,
to do that.
some of it is a matter of how things want to be, you want to organize things. I mean, I imagine that they'll set up most folks with
A folder.
a folder, a map drive. On our system, there's an AccuWeather folder right off the C drive, and all these different apps have kind of their own folder. So, if I went to the media app, there's a user folder. So when I was in the app and I went to load content in, this is where it was taking me. So you could have individual folders in here for different users, and everybody stays out of the other person's
So
folder.
I can take
and
that NASA video clip, put it in my folder, and then
drop it in
access
there
it
and
on
then
here.
access
Okay.
it. Yep. So yes, that's available to you. It's all very open. As far as choosing different backgrounds and kind of reskinning the different applications to look the way that you want to. And as we progress here, some of them are easy, and I'm tending to start with the easier ones. There are some that are a little bit more involved with the, graphics department's going to have to initially make you a layout, and then there will be just the data parts that you change after that. So that's kind of a little bit behind the scenes. So. Yeah, on the list app, another very common use of it is doing like rundowns of what's coming on this evening. So, 8 p.m., here's what's coming up. Following that at 9 o'clock, the following, 10 p.m.,
You
Fox
can't just
News.
move from one to the other, you have to tap.
You can go right there. And the way this was designed, they kind of push each other off, but you can come up with your own scale or sizing if you want. So if I wanted to modify this, that 8 o'clock show is no longer The Bones, it's been canceled. I'm not going to spend a lot of time initially here in the editors. Again, this is what I'm going to get what we're going to call super users involved in tomorrow. But this is the list app. So when I was going in here and going from scene to scene, these are all the different scenes or templates that are within the app. So we saw Casey Kasem, we saw the Christmas travel, Equinox. I want to move TV show to Fox, which is the one I was looking at. I'm going to go ahead and move that up so that the next time I launch the app, that's actually the very first thing that's going to open up. I also want to go in here and modify it. So I double tap it and take this full screen. A lot of design stuff in here initially. A lot of that you can kind of ignore on the day-to-day basis. What we want to do is get right down here to where we have our list of text. 8 p.m. show Bones was canceled, so I don't know if it was or not. But I want to type something new in here, so I don't know what show you might pick. Put American Idol in there. So I've changed the text. Over here is where it's actually linking to the video or media that's popping up. So I want to modify that. It's taking me to a folder of content associated with the list app. So I don't really have an American Idol image, so we'll just throw like a Fox News report or something in there. So now I've changed what I'm linked to there. I'm just going to hit save, resave my show, and relaunch the list app. Oh, I didn't resave my wheel. I'm going to go back to wheel config where I changed move that up to the top, and I do need to save that separately. Now when I launch it, this is the first thing in my show. I changed it to American Idol, and I changed the video that it was linked to. So again, I expect sort of producers / graphics department to come up with the background designs and things that you use, potentially deciding how much real estate these pictures should take up, and then giving you some default templates that you can go in there and save off your own version of it, and then just be controlling what text lines you put in there. You see this animating, so if I was just hiding, okay, those are animating too large. I want them to, when they pop out, I don't want them to be yellow, I want them to come out and be blue. I can come in here. You can actually set up a unique animation style for every single line of text, or what we usually do is tell everything to use a global style. So up here, my fonts are starting at a size of 42, color white. I'm changing to a size of 96. I'm going to change this so that it only changes to 64. And I want the color to be the dark blue. Not sure how that actually it's on blue, so let's make it green. Save that. And then launch list app again. And now it's changed. So now I'm not going off screen, and I can work with them right there.
Nice.
These buttons here for advancing scene to scene can all be controlled in here where you want the buttons. They can be top, bottom, middle, left, right, top, center. So if one person works from one side of the screen and somebody works from the other, that can all be configured separately. The overall background image is just up here, so you can go and change to a different background. So, again, I'm not going to go real far into that, but I could see individual users getting to the point where they're going here and changing your news, your possibly weather or sports headlines or whatever you want to do with it. So that is the list app. So some of these apps, some of them we developed, earlier in the development cycle. One of the later ones that we made was the Designer app. And what we endeavored to do with the Designer app was to move the creation process of the design of the app directly inside the app instead of having like a separate editor like you saw me going to just now. So the designer app is basically structured in a way that you set up touch points on the screen. And you can put them wherever you want, and touching the touch point brings out either an image or a live video. And so here, these are my 4 touch points. This, again, this was something we sent out to all of our stations, pre-made. This was one of our mailings. We were doing them about once a month. We're now doing about a couple of these per month that we send out based upon news stories. Which is something kind of pre-made that the station could just use right out of the box. Kind of highlighted where the different facilities are that are trained for treating Ebola, where patients were recovered at the time, where there were patients that were being monitored, and then where a fatality had occurred. We did one for the Kentucky Derby, set up these touch points here. Different bits of historical information. And then I believe a day or two before it started, we sent one out that was the current odds of the different horses. Some kind of generic templates in here that can be used. You'll probably recognize this one as being somewhat like the American Idol, which we actually did send out. We sent out this for the American Idol once we were down to a certain number of contestants. We sent it out with those contestants' pictures already in it. And then people could pop up at different contestants and say these were the ones that were in the top 3, these were the ones that were in the bottom 3. But what this app lets you do is you can do the design of it directly in the app. You hit Control-E, and it takes you into an edit mode. So it's, okay, I have a touch point here. Whenever I touch that, it brought up a specific graphic on the screen. I want to go ahead, touch this graphic, this touch point. So right now it's locked. I want to unlock it. I could decide that I want this over here. I want to preview the media that it's going to pop up. And I might decide, you know what, everything's using a global position and size for all the media. I want this specific button to have its own location. So I want its media to come over here. And it doesn't have to be an image. I could go in here and choose, let's go for this silly sample wildlife video. So I can say, okay, I want touching that button to bring up that video. I can scale this directly on the screen. I just want it to be some small video right there. I could do that. Hit save. Now I'm going to go ahead and, before where you saw I had to go to a completely separate program to get to the wheel. Right here I can work with the wheel directly in the app. So this is actually layout 2 with my final wheel. I'm going to go ahead and move that up. That's the first thing in my wheel. Save it. Close this. So now this is ready for going on air with the changes that I made. I touch there. That's where the video comes up. And I still have all these different elements. You can have different modes where right now, every time I hit a new touch point, it brings up a new piece of media, it closes the previous one. I don't have to do that. So if I wanted to have 8 buttons here that all opened up a separate piece of video and they all stayed up at the same time, I could quickly do that. So I'll go in here, global viewer. Do I want to close previous pop-outs? No, I don't. Save. Close. And that's up there. I want to press this one. This is its own separate thing. Press that. That's its own separate thing. So these could all be different videos coming up that you're then manipulating and moving around on the screen wherever you want. This is really something that your graphics guys, once they get in here, can start to make, I mean, they can really skin each template of the designer app to look like something completely different. So, I mean, it could be a bunch of touch points down here. It could be, some stations have actually taken this app and put a map as the background of it, and then put the touch points at different locations around the map that you then touch and bring up, some image related to that location or video.
Let me ask you a technical question, not too technical. That 2 and that oval,
Mhm.
is that like a Photoshop file?
It's an
that
image.
has-
It's a finished image, yeah.
And how is it clipping that circle? In other words, how is that appearing?
It's an image with alpha around
Okay,
it,
so
alpha
it's got an
channel.
alpha channel.
Got an alpha
That's my
channel.
question.
When you bring a video in, the videos can't have alpha channels.
No,
They're
but-
going to be
But
square
images
boxes.
that are going to float like that
Yep,
would have an alpha channel. Okay,
absolutely.
that was my question.
So that's just the designer app. This is one, where the creative folks get very excited about this app because it really
Sure.
can turn into anything you want. That's the designer app. We have a 3D app. We initially deliver this with a handful of 3D models of like human anatomy. So, here's an error if you wind up doing a medical story or something, and wanted to bring up Telestrator. Here. You can telestrate and talk about something, point out something specific on this graphic. This is something where creating a model and getting into the system, I'm not going to fool anybody, it's not a simple thing. There are websites that sometimes sell pre-made 3D models. Our graphics group will absolutely work with your graphics group to teach them kind of how to get the first one in there. They're like OBJ files, which 3D graphic artists will know how to generate those out of the 3D software. But by default, you get a few different body parts, like the eye. There's a There's a heart in here. So if you want to use a telestrator and talk about blood flow or something, some injury or something that somebody had. You can also link in the different templates, video or graphic buttons if there's additional things that you want to show over top of this. There's a video of somebody's beating heart. So that can be brought on here and manipulated. The next one's more of the full layout of a person showing all the major organs. It'll handle OBJ files, and we give you kind of a handful of initial 3D models to use with it.
I've got to go swap a car.
Okay.
It's going to take me 5 minutes. We've been at this an hour and a half. Does everybody want to take a break for a few minutes? Let me go do that. I'll be right back. Or just need to keep going. I got to go swap a car. I'll be right back.
I can spend. I'll spend some time on the bracket
Okay.
app,
I'll
which
be right
is
back.
not really weather related. But,
Whatever he doesn't need.
yeah, and I'll show you briefly the election app, although we kind of missed that with the timing of this. But one of the very early apps we made was for March Madness.
Yes, cool.
For educational
So-
purposes only.
So, yeah, I think just at the time that we were developing stuff, we wound up, 2 months before March Madness, and we're like, okay, what app can we make that people would really like? So we created one that let you dig down in the different brackets, advanced teams in the bracket. You could be talking back and forth. Had a quick telestrator in there, where you can highlight, talk about different things. what we do is the night of the selection committee sets up the brackets, within 2 hours we will deliver to you the starting teams on both sides. After that, there's just a back-end editor where you advance teams that make it to the next round. And when you do that, the next time you launch this, those teams will already be moved up. So it was, you've got like an Elite 8 view you could look at. See how my memory is. We actually don't have a peanut one over there, but yeah, it ended up being.
Michigan
Right.
State's
I
down
did
there.
something to it. Something to it weird. Just trying to get it right. It was actually. Huh.
Do you have to do the top first? The top team?
Doesn't want to fun up for some reason.
Yeah, right?
All right, that's acting up, but you go into Final Four view, and then so we've got different modes for different stages of the tournament. But again, probably nobody will even look at this until we get within a month or so of the March Madness. But, yeah, the election app that was missed. This is basically what WJLA was using out in DC and doing cut-ins with it. For the number of races that they covered, there is a bit of setup time with it. You've got to put in the different candidates and the pictures and stuff for the different races that you're going to cover. But this was we first unveiled this going into the presidential election in 2012. You could come in here and go into a prediction mode where we would link to AP data coming in, so the results show up automatically in the system. So all the states that have been called would already be colored in, and then the user could come in here and talk about different scenarios and say, if these go this way, this is how we might wind up with a tie in the electoral college or something like that. So they could project out the results as they saw fit. And then this is just showing that you could jump into a state view. And most stations had access to county by county results for their one state. So you could come in here and look at the overall vote total, but then you could highlight individual counties and say, what's the vote total within these counties that I'm highlighting? So there's a way to talk about, these rural counties are leaning strongly this way versus the counties around the cities. You'd see percentage of precincts reporting, so you could get a sense of, okay, not that many of the votes have come in from these red counties, so we expect the overall vote to tilt more in a certain direction as more votes come in. So. Then you could dig right down into all the congressional districts. So all the different congressional district lines. This is where I got my education about how bad the gerrymandering had become. You could click on a district and see the shape of it, and then wonder how they're representing just that group of people. But yeah, this is something where these results, when tied to the AP feed, would be coming in automatically, and they made very extensive use of this out of WJLA. So I suspect with how that went, their model's probably going to be more of doing a lot of this stuff centrally and then providing all this information to the different simpler stations around the country. But you do have your own version, same version that they have of the election app to do this sort of thing. I think they mostly did a whole bunch of different Senate races around the country.
So
they
you
were-
could click on San Antonio or Bear County. and-
So I could click on Texas, go in there, and if I had data in here, I'd be able to see like
Yeah.
the different results for all the
Okay.
different counties and things like that. So we're providing all the shape files when the districts change. So 2012 was a big year where they've taken in the census information. So the number of representatives in each state changed. So basically every single district line was modified the entire country. So now it's more up to individual states can redraw their district lines every year. So that's just an example. We did have a setup where we took the election app and actually put a different type of data in here other than vote totals. And we sent this out where it kind of highlighted the number of states that were reporting flu. We could look at number of positive specimens per state. I'm not sure exactly what that represented, but this was just a pre-made template that we sent out. So there have been some stations that have taken the election app and gone a different direction with it and figured out how to use it with different data types. Because really, high, moderate, low, minimum is just 4 different candidates that you've given a specific name instead of being people, they're just categories. There's a graphing app on here also. The graphing app can show graphs with columns, rows, or lines. You can have multiple categories. So here we're kind of showing 3 categories per location. These do take a while to set up, but it's also something where we send out a lot of these things pre-made. We're going to talk about holiday sales in millions, different stores.
And that all gets built here, right? All these graphics?
These all get built here, correct. So we sent stuff out about medal counts during the Olympics. Lots of the Olympic coverage. So what we provide in here is we made a whole bunch of default templates so that your graphics folks can take over and decide, okay, I want a chart that's like this, that only has one element, per thing there, other ones that are a wider screen or whatever. So you're going to see about 60 of these in here as default starting templates.
They would create the background.
They create the background,
We would create.
come up with the color. The editor will let you set the title that you want to use for the, the X and Y axis.